Hello, Noble people. My name is Noble, and this is going to be a sequel to my hot takes video. You guys seem to really enjoy and have been asking for a second one, so I am now going to do a second one with the leftover hot takes from my original post, as well as some hot takes I've seen from the comments of the first video. Speaking about the comments, I want to remind everyone, please be civil in the comments. I've already had to delete at least a couple of posts, or actually a couple people have deleted their own posts, which I would rather people delete their own stuff and edit their own comments than me have to go in and remove stuff. It's a video game, don't take it that seriously. You could have discourse and talk about the opinions in the comments. I mean, having conversation and just talking about it naturally, about a game that everyone in the comment section loves, even if they do have hot takes about it, is fine. But getting really aggressive at someone is not okay. And I know in a video where I'm talking about hot takes, that is probably counterintuitive because there's going to be hot takes in this video and people are going to disagree with. But just remember, please stay at least somewhat civil. You can have normal conversations, just don't freak out about the little very tiny things. But that being said, let's hop into this video. The first one we're going to talk about is, I think chapter 5 will be the end of the prophecy plot by defeating the knight and or the ending the prophecy. The chapters 6 and 7 are going to be meta, Gaster, player controlling Chris, etc. This way you could read the story in two ways. If you ignore the Gaster lore, the story ends at chapter 5 hometown. It will get a happy ending. Evil roaring avoided or defeated, and in the end of chapter 7, it's Chris's happy ending. Now, I chose this hot take because I think this is really interesting, actually, and I kind of have my own separate take on how the chapter layout is going to happen. I agree with you on the fact that I feel like chapter 5 is going to be the last actual chapter. There are hints that chapter 6 and 7 are going to be much different, especially since we're only getting chapter 5. It makes me feel like chapter 6 and 7 are going to be their own package together. Also, there are hints that they're going to be different. Gerson says in his fight that in the book he goes through chapter 1 through 5, so we get a little hint at what chapter 5 is. He says there's only one chapter after that for chapter 5. He doesn't mention what's in that chapter, and we don't get anything for chapter 7, meaning chapter 7 is completely uncharted, and he probably didn't really want to talk about what is in chapter 6 because something big might happen, which makes me feel like that chapters 6 and 7 are going to be very unique. Now, with the fact that they're going to be Gaster stuff, I'm going to have to completely disagree. Unless chapter 5 ramps up with the Gaster stuff and actually introduces him as a character, I don't think so. Because Deltarune has to be a game where you can play it fully blind from chapter 1 to chapter 7. So I feel like if it's going to go meta narrative, for people who aren't extremely deep into the lore and are like 10 years from now when the entire game is out, people who are not as brain rotted as some of the other people in the community like me, they're not going to really understand what's going on. So I feel like from a story perspective, I don't see that happening. I do agree with you that chapter 6 and 7 are going to be different. As a matter of fact, I think the Weird Route actually might end in chapter 5 simply because the Spamton sweepstakes doesn't show chapter 6 and 7, but that's a little bit of a more tinfoil hat theory that I'm not going to cover. But yeah, other than that, I actually really do like this hot take. Okay, for this next hot take, there is too many comments to choose from to show on screen, and this is the hot take that the knight is not a secret boss, and either we should rename the secret bosses to fit the aesthetic of like a Shadow Crystal boss, or the secret boss for chapter 3 is the Shadow Mantle character that you have to fight to consider it a secret boss. Now, on like a technicality, they are not secret bosses. According to the Steam page, it says they are hidden bosses. Now, yes, technically, you can fight me when it comes to the fact that the knight is a secret boss, but considering it says devilishly difficult hidden bosses, that makes me think that all of the bosses that are intended to have a hard fight are considered the hidden bosses and the secret bosses that we fight along the way. And I do not include the Shadow Mantle dude as that. It has too much of a different gameplay style for it to be considered a, like, normal boss. It is definitely a secret hidden boss, but not in the line of like how Jevil and Spamton were. And the Knight isn't in the same vein as Jevil and Spamton are, because the Knight is their own thing. And I don't like that people still trying to force people into the normal stereotypical, oh, we gotta have a secret boss. I generally don't think there is a quote-unquote secret boss in Chapter 3. We just have hidden ways to fight a secret boss. Because a normal player is not going to be able to beat the Knight without the Shadow Mantle. Meaning it is still a hidden boss because you have to find a hidden item to beat it. Technically, you don't have to have the Shadow Mantle. It's insanely hard because you get like one tapped with a lot of the attacks, but it's not fully impossible. That being said, if you do not like the idea that it is the quote-unquote hidden boss, I will agree. I feel like Shadow Crystal boss does have a better ring to it, or like the crystal bosses does have a better ring to it. But considering that on the Steam page totally specifically says Jevish Devil hidden bosses, which is obviously a reference to Jevil, I'm going to assume that includes Spamton, Knight, and Gerson on there as well. So this comment has been removed, and I am kind of only having this in here because some of the comments that I did actually have to remove were unfortunately stuff like this. This person, at first, I thought they were just mad that they didn't like the Susie and Noelle ship or whatever, but they saying it's a humongous stend on an otherwise amazing game, and Undertale had the decency to let you skip this. And in the replies, which there is 14 as of I captured this, the comments obviously deleted now. Basically, they're really homophobic. So yeah, they deleted. I removed their name, not even to give them credit, because I hate you if you do this. And I do want to say I do not condone this in the slightest. If you are coming into the Deltarune community and you're spouting this, I don't understand. I don't understand how you think this is a wonderful game when it spits on your beliefs, which are horrible beliefs, by the way. And I also want to say that. Also, in conjunction, anyone who does purposefully misgender Chris as well, because I did see a couple comments about that where people were like, oh, hot take, I think Chris is male. Yeah, no. I'm removing all of those. So if you have a problem with that, leave. And also, I do want to remind you, if you get mad that I delete your comments and come back yelling that I deleted your comments, fun fact, how YouTube deals with deleting comments, they don't count it. So if you keep coming back and reposting that I'm deleting your comments, I can just farm you for engagement with not having your comments appear. So by all means, come back so I can delete your comments more, but otherwise get the hell out, because I do not want to have to deal with anyone who is homophobic in the slightest. I apologize for exploding for any of the actual sane people that watch me, which is hopefully a lot of you. But I just can't stand when people who think they're a part of this community try and say that and try and take themselves seriously. I can't stand that. So sorry about that. I put that in the middle of the video. That way it can get that much traction, so I can get most of the weirdos that were in the comments out. That was most of the stuff I had to delete. Sorry about that, but just wanted to kind of thin the herd, I guess. But let's actually get into actual hot takes now. For me at this point, especially after the Holiday Mansion part of Chapter 4, anyone who believes the Jar Jar-esque idea that the soul is an extension of the player because it's too meta is woefully ignorant at this point. Like, how is it the Shadow Mental games and multiple times Chris looked back while I was playing, and how we had a full autonomy over the human soul after Chris ripped out the heart, the cage containing the human soul, and the prophecy showing it is indeed a soul of a human, and that sure as hell isn't Chris's. Makes me feel like people are befuddled to believe the theory holds any form whatsoever. No hate to Jar, by the way, but love that guy. So yeah, I 1,000,000% agree. As a matter of fact, in my previous video with me talking about old theories, someone was hardcore trying to say that this was not going to be the case. Now, I'm obviously not going to show that person just because I don't want them to get attacked just because they think it's going to be something different. But this kind of theory that it's not us completely falls apart if you play the weird route, because so much on the weird route hinges the fact that Chris doesn't like what we're doing, but is still trying to open the fountains and still has a promise to keep. They literally, at the end of the weird route, when you do it, they throw us, the soul, into the trash can, kick us multiple times because we forced Noelle to do that. So it's insane to me to think that people just are completely blind when it comes to that. Obviously, maybe this person in the comments hadn't played the weird route yet, but I 1,000,000% agree with you that anyone who just thinks, oh, Chris is just evil, or the one theory that I kind of think could be correct is that the soul is still Chris's soul, but it's the compassion that they have left over, which could be an interesting take, but it's completely overshadowed by the soul being us and us controlling Chris. I did not care for Tenna when I played the game, TBH. I didn't dislike, and I still don't dislike him, but I'm also not in love with him. He just feels like a Spamton again, but we feel like we're going through the motions with him as a wacky villain that's actually sympathetic. I don't hate him, and he still had funny moments. I even like him a bit, but he does feel a bit repetitive to me. That's kind of the point. Toby even actually posted about that on his Blue Sky. Before the game out, I thought people really care about Tenna and simply dismiss him as a budget Spamton. I'm glad everyone seems to like him just fine. I see these as intentionally similar characters who mutually enhance each other, you know, like a spy versus spy. So yeah, Toby is intentionally making them the identical characters or close to identical characters because they're supposed to play off of each other. Now, obviously, you can not like Tenna. I'm not going to bash you because you don't like a character, even if I do love Tenna. It is just the case of they're not mutually exclusive. We can have similar characters without it feeling repetitive. A lot of the stuff with Tenna doesn't necessarily feel exactly like Spamton. I can understand where you would feel like maybe some of his jokes could feel Spamton-esque, but the cut scenes with the ad transitions where his words were different, he still felt like his own character, just different, because at the end of the day they do have their similarities and their differences. I feel like Tenna wasn't as far gone as Spamton was, while Tenna definitely was still like playing off of the night and still had like sinister undertones with him having Toriel captured and whatnot. Spamton felt a little too far gone because he was trying to be big, trying to get past the dark, and that's evident by Spamton being a secret boss while Tenna's a main boss. Tenna hasn't gone down that rabbit hole that Spamton has, and you can see that distinction in their characters. Tenna is queen, but better in every way, with the exception of being Giga Queen at the end. Susie getting angry and confronting Rousey in Chapter 4 felt really out of place, like it wasn't the combination of every one thing, it's just her getting mad at the things she would have addressed way earlier if she actually cared. Now, I do agree with you on the Tenna is better than Queen, except the fight. The punch-out fight feels like a fitting end for Queen's character. I like Tenna because I like the story with Tenna. The only really story with Queen is that she learns that she was kind of wrong. Where like the stereotypical, oh, we finished everything with friendship, which yes, you do finish with that, but it still is satisfying. But I feel like Tenna is a lot more interesting of a character, especially with his connections to the Dreamer family. So I will agree with you that Tenna is the better character. But I think you're not reading how or looking into the story of Susie with it being out of place if she really cared, because the reason she did yell is because she cares so much. With Deltarune, it's kind of hard to remember that this is happening in a very short time span. The chapters happen within such a short time, within 3 days. You got chapter 1 on the first day, chapter 2 on the second day, and then chapter 3 is at the night of chapter 2, and then you got chapter 4 the next day. So it is 3 days for 4 chapters worth of content. So there's going to be so much stuff that happens and so much information boggling around these characters' minds, especially with the revelation that Rousey says to Chris and Susie at the beginning of chapter 3 that Darkners aren't real. That kind of off-puts Susie, and the whole reason she kind of wants to be part of the TV show with Tenna is so that she can spend time with Rousey and try and make him and convince him that he does matter and that we shouldn't just forget him. There was a big scene in chapter 4 when Gerson gets revealed. At first, Susie doesn't want to do anything with him because she thinks that he's a Darkner. And then when he doesn't know what that is, instead of Rousey being like, oh yes, you are actually a Darkner, Susie thinks that he's a Lightner and starts to go along. Yes, it could have been just Rousey being like, oh yeah, I gotta follow the prophecy, because that's what his character does. He doesn't really know what to do, which is interesting about his character. But it's so fitting for Susie's character to be just like, why won't you just tell us? So many obstacles could be avoided if you were to just tell us. So it's not out of place because she does really care. Like, imagine that your mentor that you just spent a while with turned out to be dead. Then when you confront someone who you think is him that's attacking you, and you realize that it's not him, and one of your friends who's been on the journey is like, oh yeah, he wasn't actually alive in the first place, I knew that from the beginning, you would obviously be really, really mad. It doesn't feel out of place to me in the slightest, because it is the combination of Susie letting out her anger, being like, why don't just tell us what is going on? So I have to completely disagree with you on that take. I'm not sure if I'd rather the dojo not exist, it being so devoid of content, not even letting you play the previous chapter's dojo fight, 'cause it makes it seem like it was more or less scrapped content between chapters 2 and 3. What's even the point of an additional fight mode if it's not a challenge? Edit, went back and redid chapter 2 at all stars, and while it's still not any good, it was something. I don't know how to feel anymore. Like, I could see how those chapters 3 and 4 actually being interesting, since those enemies can actually deal enough damage that you can't face tank at all. 1,000,000% agree. Now, I would still rather it be there. I still think it's still a cool thing to have there, and I don't know if it's just scrap content, but the idea of a dojo where we can test our fights is really interesting, especially since in this dojo you can just fight people. You are not forced to actually pacify. So if you are doing a normal spare or pacifist quote-unquote route, if you have gathered a bunch of actual weapons, you can still test them out on this dojo. And with it kind of being devoid of life and not being able to do past chapters, I 100% agree with that. As a matter of fact, there was something that a lot of people, some big people were talking about, where you should be able to interact with the bed in that area and say that, oh, you remembered some of your past battles, and then being able to refight some of the secret or main bosses. Being able to redo like a revamped king with actual big damage, or Jevel with amped damage, even being able just to fight the knight again, that would save so much time for someone who wants to actually do a no-hit. Having to have a save file to load in for that specific chapter can kind of get annoying. So just being able to have like, okay, here's the items that I want for this fight, I'm gonna fight the knight, or do a boss rush. A boss rush mode in this dojo would go hard to the point where I can see myself putting a lot of hours into the game simply by grinding away at this. As it is right now, it's really bad, and even some of the previous chapters you can tank a bunch of stuff, like you said. Chapter 3 and 4, they do a little bit more damage, so you can't take them. But like, it's pretty bad, so I do 1,000,000% agree that this needs to be revamped. I don't know about it being scrapped content, because it still feels somewhat intentional, but I agree it needs to have some kind of update. And I do believe, since it was actually getting a decent amount of traction on Twitter, that people wanted to see it get revamped. I think Toby actually might try and revamp it. I don't know if this will be in chapter 5 or what else, but I do know a lot of people were talking about this, especially some big faces in the Deltarune and Undertale community. And that is actually going to be all for this video, except one little thing. I'm going to talk about that one person's comment, the one I deleted that was being homophobic. I actually went and looked at all of the posts they had made, or comments they had made on the channel, and this dude was unhinged, so I had to like purge all of his comments and also had to hide him from the channel, so he can't view the channel unless he actually like types in my channel name or goes through the history of looking at this video. But I saw some of my subscribers that have their names listed were actually commenting and viewing his videos, because YouTube tells me if other subscribers are viewing your videos. So I wanted to make a statement to make sure people weren't actually watching the content of his current Undertale playthrough. That being said, if you do not want to listen to this, the normal hot takes are done, so I recommend you click off the video. But if you do want to stay, I will talk about what this moron is doing. He is currently doing a Undertale playthrough that on the surface, it looks like it is fine. I have seen from the first handful of videos, people from that are subscribed to me, or I recognize from at least answering comments, or at least being a part of my comments. I recognize the names. I try and at least remember the names or profile pictures of people. And these people are commenting in the video, just watching someone play Undertale, because on the surface, it does look like it's someone's first playthrough of Undertale, maybe a little bit. He's doing voices and whatnot. Until I looked ahead at some of the more recent stuff, like in Hotline and Waterfall, this dude has been commenting horrible stuff to like other people who are like-minded like him. And I realized after skimming through his stuff, this disgusting piece of human scum is fantasizing about wiping out everyone in the LGBT community via trying to kill all those types of characters in Undertale. You gotta be kidding me. There is not something more deplorable that I have seen regarding something from Undertale for a while. And I used to be on DeviantArt. Like serious. Are someone fantasizing about committing a genocide on a minority because you can't do it in real life? Now, from watching these videos, you might not get that, you might not get it immediately, which is why I'm doing this call out. Because the people who have been commenting are watching his videos, and they're decently long videos, so maybe you'll watch the 30-minute one or 40-minute one, maybe when you're at work or whatever, taking a break or something, and not really think about it. You might think it's just someone playing through. Until you get to Waterfall and, like, Hotland, and that is when stuff happens. And he's been making it transparent that in the newer comments, because there's some other like-minded people who might be his friends in the comments, I just can't wrap my brain around it. So I am gonna post his channel to make sure that everyone from my community can avoid this piece of trash. But I cannot stress enough, we cannot stoop down to his level. People like this piece of trash are the type of people who get pleasure from us calling him out. And if the same thing that I had said works for him. If I call him, delete his comments, he can delete your guys' comments. So calling him out's not going to do anything. And I also know from watching other YouTubers and other streamers, whatever, anytime they're like, oh yeah, I don't like this dude. So there's always one person that goes way too above and beyond, and then like does death threats, does like doxing or whatever. Now I hope there's no one in my community who would do that. And I am only doing this so that the people who are watching him, who are in the community as well, who are in the LGBT community like myself, or fan of Deltarune, whatever, who are watching this and not understanding. I've seen multiple people who have like they, them, he, they have the transgender flag, they have like the bi flag in their bio, and seeing people like me not really realize what it is bad, because I know once this hits them and they're trying to call him out, he's going to be disgusting to them in the comments, because this dude is pretty much publicly admitting he wants to kill people in this minority. And I cannot stand for that. I know technically, yes, we should call him out on the comments, but considering his size of his channel as of as the picture I took is like only 66 subscribers, and he doesn't have like that many views on some of the videos, I can't in good conscience do this, because I don't want to stoop to his level. He is purposely doing this to get underneath our skin, and the only way we can really combat this is to ignore him. People like this want attention. So all we have to do is ignore it. Now that being said, I'm going to show his channel, and then just so you guys can ignore it, and then that will be the end of this video. Joseph Bulkin is the channel's name. There it is. This is the piece of garbage who is admitting that he wants to commit genocide. And if you do think that I'm taking this out of context and blowing it on proportion, I don't care. From what I have seen, and you can see there, I have skimmed through his videos because you can see the red line under those videos. From what I have seen, this person is actually just fantasizing. Even that, I already did call him out on the fact that he's just being a homophobe, and I already hopefully thinned the herd with that part of the video. This part is just making sure everyone is going to be safe, because I don't trust anyone who at least fantasizes half. Even if there's some kind of jokey part where it's like, oh, well, I wouldn't do it in real life. The fact that this is in your brain and you're doing this in a game means that you could probably make this disconnection and have no feelings doing this in real life. So I don't like it. Don't attack him. I've made that stance clear. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video, aside from obviously this gross dude. But yeah, that's going to be about it. Stay noble. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.